You are now listening to Rock Around the Clock. This is the theme music from MGM's sensational new picture, Blackboard Jungle. Many people said the story could not, must not, dared not be shown. The picture already has the movie and book world gasping. Blackboard Jungle deals with an explosive subject, the teenage terror in the schools. It is the frankest, the toughest, the most realistic film since On the Waterfront. It is fiction, but fiction torn from big city modern savagery.
Welcome to Kermode Uncut, where I'd like your help. Alongside the Radio 5 live film review show that I do with Simon Mayo every Friday, I've been doing a series recently for Radio 2 called Celluloid Jukebox, which is a celebration of the strange relationship between pop music and the movies. I mean, you probably know the story. Pop music and the movies really dates back to Blackboard Jungle in the middle of the 50s, when you had Rock Around the Clock over the credits, and somehow it caught the youth's imagination, became a really big thing, and ever since then pop music and movies have been really wedded. And one of the things I've been trying to do is to choose pieces of music from movies that are perhaps not the immediate first choice, not stuff you would immediately think of. So alongside, for example, a popular choice like Rubber Biscuit by the Chips from that brilliant sequence in Mean Street when Harvey Keitel is walking drunkenly through a party listening to that song, we've also had, for example, the original version of God Give Me Strength from the soundtrack of Grace of My Heart, which, as you know, if you're a regular here, is one of my favourite songs of all time. But in fact, it's usually, when people hear that song, they hear the Elvis Costello version of it, because obviously he was one of the co-writers of that song. On one of the programmes that we just recorded, we used a little bit of audio of Tony Coca-Cola and the Roosters from Driller Killer. If you've ever seen Driller Killer, you'll know that the plot of Driller Killer is basically the central character, played by Abel Ferrara, is driven mad by the sound of this terrible punk band rehearsing next door to him, which is, of course, Tony Coca-Cola and the Roosters. And played a little bit of Gary Busey, doing a brilliant impression of Buddy Holly in the Buddy Holly story, playing Rockin' Around with Ollie V. Anyway, I want to ask you a question, which is, what for you is the greatest use of a piece of pop music in a film? I mean, people would think of, for example, The End by The Doors in Apocalypse Now, or Stuck in the Middle with You in the middle of Reservoir Dogs. But what's the esoteric choice? What's the piece of music that has really made a scene in a film stand out for you? I used a couple of cuts from the soundtrack of Cruising in the very first show, and I've forgotten just how great that soundtrack is. We also had a little bit of Pink Floyd, the soundtrack of The Valley Obscured by Clouds, the Barbette Schroeder film, which is a strange cult movie, which I had to go back and watch again recently, and I absolutely loved it, but I love the soundtrack. What, for you, is the great piece of pop music used brilliantly in the movies? Let me know, because if it's a good choice, I'm going to nick it and claim it as my own.
Go, go,